And you can put it. Oh, and we're recording it. That's great, because I think we're putting it on YouTube for people who can't join us. I would love for you to just reflect on a really simple question, which is like, if you're a parent, do you love your children? You can put yes or no in the chat. It's not a conditional answer. If you have teens, it might be harder, but we've been serving families for 12 years, and I just want to start a little bit with our why. What we believe at Families Empowered is that all families love their children, that all parents and caregivers love their children. We believe that all parents want their children to read, write, and do math because they want their children to live independent lives and lives of meaning, right? So that's kind of our why. And I wanted to start with that because often we start with the what, how much, scale, but it's really important that everyone really who knows us knows that really what is sort of the underpinning of all of our work is really love. And we believe every parent loves their child, and that is core to what we do and what we bring every day to our service. So we're going to cover today is just where we've been, where we're going, and then get to some questions. So let's, okay. All right, so our vision, given that we believe every parent wants their child to have a life of meaning, our vision is that all families will have access to schools that work for them. And I wish I had thought a little bit more about that. I would have underlined the for them and put it in bold. So a little bit about who we serve for those of you who are new. We serve generally families of color. 79% of our families identify as families of color, and 70% are Spanish speaking. Close to 50%, so 47% of our families are living on about $50,000 a year or less. So we serve any family who comes to us, regardless of income, regardless of race, immigration status. But we are a non-for-profit, and we use the resources that we are provided through philanthropy to make sure that we are reaching out to the most under-resourced and vulnerable families. And we check ourselves by tracking that every year, and we're very proud that we continue to provide service and support to the lowest income families in Texas and soon to be Arizona. So just a little bit of context. So I think Josephine, you gave us a great setup by saying you've been back since January and trying to get back to normal. And I think that we're all itching to get back to normal, but we all know that there's just been so much disruption due to COVID, and our families are not settled. There are kids who are still missing across the country. And in Texas, there's still a significant number of kids not back in school. And our families have very big concerns about learning loss and the educational options to them. So we are the only parent service organization of our kind and size in Texas. And we are, I think, the largest in the country, working with families to find schools that work for them. So that means that we, as you all know, are working with traditional public schools. We're working with charter schools. We're working with private schools that are both religious and secular. We work with homeschools, micro schools. There are other parent service organizations. We are not the only parent service organization. We are the only one that has a free bilingual call center that is focused on providing parents with all of their options in an unbiased way. And we're really proud of that, and just grateful that people partner with us. And so we're going to get a little bit into that. We had this year, the reason we have this media mention is we had just a lot of media mentions because we're in an educational crisis, right? I mean, there's absolutely no one disputing that. And the reality is that we've invested a lot on the supply side and not as much on the parent side. We talk a lot about parents and parent engagement, but there aren't a lot of resources historically that have been donated to helping parents really think through the options that are the best for them. And so this year we had just a ton of interest in our work. And just for us, this is a pretty shocking number, because for those of you who've known us for the last decade, we fly very under the radar and just sort of quietly go. I always say we're small but mighty. We quietly go about our business. And we've had lots of folks saying, oh my gosh, what is going on with parents? And no one's been talking to parents, and we have. So, we're really very proud to be able to elevate parent voices, and to bring some of our parent insights into the public sphere to inform some of the discussion. So our impact, we've had over 100,000 parents we've served, and that equates to about 135,000 students. So we've had a pretty significant scale. These are all actually our kids and families, and at events that we hosted this year. So pretty proud of that. All right. So how do families find us? I think it was Josephine again. She's not paid to set us up, but she asked about wait lists. For those of you who've known us historically, we were considered for many years the charter waitlist organization. We're not the charter waitlist organization. We're not the voucher organization. We're not the fix the district organization. We're not the homeschool organization. We're a parent service organization. And we used to have parents coming to us primarily via charter partnerships, which we're incredibly grateful for and proud of and continue to do. But we now have families coming to us through other mechanisms. So this year we had over 60,000 visitors to our Families Empowered website. We had hosted 10 live in-person events in the 2021-2022 kind of school application season across the state of Texas, and served over 7,000 families that way. And we made over 400,000 phone calls and texts. Again, these are some of our families, and we just have had like an unprecedented amount of interest on the part of families to find schools that will work for them and that are going to partner with them and meet their needs. We were pretty blown away. We started doing our in-person events really in December, and that was right at the Omicron, kind of the beginning of Omicron. And we had schools in some cases that were like, we can't participate. We can't believe you're doing this. And we just kept saying, well, that's fine if you don't want to participate, but we take our marching orders from parents. And if parents are telling us they want to connect with you guys and with schools, we're going to make that happen. And we are really proud we did not cancel one event. And we were blown away, quite frankly, with the registrations and the turnout. And what that said to us, and just the gratitude and enthusiasm and real just kind of focus the parents brought to the events that we hosted this year. And for those of you who've been to events, Tracy's on this. I muted, I didn't want to look at myself, so I can't see everyone, but I know some of you have attended our events. And if you have anything you'd like to say about them, you can put that in the chat. But really, it was stunning, just the enthusiasm and the gratitude that the parents had, but also our school and community partners had this year. It gave me some hope that I think we can turn this around. So that was sort of our year that was last year. And just to wrap up, I mean, we served more people. I'll kind of get at that. Over the last 2 years, we in 2019, we had 91,000 parents in our network, and fast forward to this year, we had 130,000, as we talked about. So just 2020 was terrible for everyone. we served more people with less. And we have continued to grow. So we expanded to serve families in Arizona and in Tarrant County, which for those of you who are not from Texas, Tarrant County is Fort Worth, basically. And people who are in Fort Worth are probably rolling their eyes, but you know, we have these very, very big counties in Texas. So Houston is Houston Metro, San Antonio is Bexar County, and then there's Tarrant County, and then some surrounding counties in Central Texas. So we grew. We didn't shrink. We are small but mighty. We grew our service, but really did not grow our team too much. And so like we've just been working. And we'll get into where we're headed. But again, we had a 10-year kind of runway to build relationships with families, to build the data infrastructure that would allow us to communicate at scale, and to build, you know, trust with schools, with state agencies, and with other non-for-profit community partners. And we're just so proud of that and grateful to everyone who's been with us and been working with us, especially over the last 2 years. So 2 other big things. I'm going to hold this up, but like, I'm going to hit this again. This says, report, this is just the 74 million, erased a decade of growth in pre-K enrollment. We're missing kids, right? We're missing kids on the back end in high school, and we're in really big trouble on the front end. And so as a former teacher, a 5th grade teacher, which is right in the middle of the front end and the back end, it's a terrifying proposition. We have very exhausted educators who feel burnt out, who feel stressed out, who feel like, you know, they're having to do things they were never asked or expected to do, and make up for massive gaps related to learning loss and kids just not learning. Clearly, that's a little redundant, but so for us, we were like, this is an incredibly urgent time, right? The urgency is real. We are hearing every day in our call center from parents who are stressed out, worried, and we really talked to other school and non-for-profit partners across Texas, and we were like, we're going to push a big campaign over the next 18 months. So we created a Re-enroll Texas campaign. And the idea was, that's partially why we have over 100 media mentions. We really felt like we wanted, as a trusted agency, to say to parents, it's time to re-enroll, it's time to get back, it's important, it's safe, it's okay. And in fact, it's probably more detrimental for you not to be enrolling in some form of school. So, and by the way, we also are very supportive of hybrid and virtual schooling. We work with schools that are doing that, like Texas Connections Academy. Great Hearts has a great virtual program. But really, by and large, we were like, you've got to be enrolled and you've got to show up, and you have to be, and there are schools that will work for you. So this re-enroll campaign for us allowed us to focus in a very clear way on something we actually have been doing for 10 years, but it suddenly became very relevant to everyone. And as I said, 2020 was brutal. For those of you who are in finance, you'll look at our 990 and go, oh my gosh. It was brutal. We had to do more work with less. And we did it. We didn't lay anyone off. We continued our service uninterrupted to families, and we are really, really proud of that. But 2021, it was critical for us that we couldn't continue to do more with less. It was very clear that that was impossible. So when we launched the Re-enroll Texas campaign, which we knew was going to be a big effort, we had a group of private citizens who said, we understand completely the urgency and we are going to help you become whole. And so last year we were able to raise $1 million through foundations that have been consistent and phenomenal, and some new foundations, but also through individual givers. So the Re-enroll Texas campaign was essentially chaired by a group of folks who said, we're going to raise awareness, we are going to raise funds, and we're going to make sure that our most vulnerable families have the support they need to get back into school. And so that was a really big deal. And normally in this, I don't get into sort of like our fiscal stuff, but it was scary, right? 2020, lots of businesses went out of business, lots of non-for-profits shrunk. It was a rough year, and we're just incredibly proud of getting through 2020, and then really grateful for the support that we were able to get in 2021, which made all of the growth possible. So I would be remiss, I need to make sure you know who these folks are. They're a phenomenal group, mostly Texans, but some people not in Texas who, and some are board members, some are not, but folks who committed. And some of these people were like, I've never done a video appeal, but I'll do it. Some of these folks have never actually asked anyone for money for anything, but they did. They in big ways and small ways stepped up. They volunteered at events. So again, it's incredibly hopeful, and I just would be remiss if I did not note them. So 2022, which we're into the second quarter of, we're going to offer more school connection events. So we're growing. We are going to increase our work to include pre-K programming moving forward indefinitely. So we had normally just been like sort of K-12, and we didn't go into childcare and pre-K. We are absolutely going to double down on pre-K, but also that will be a consistent part of our school connection work. And we are providing service and partnership. We are partnering with all kinds of diverse schools now, which I find as a former teacher really exciting. So micro schools, homeschooling, learning pods, just lots of different options. And certainly Arizona has allowed for that because there's so many different ways through open enrollment, micro schooling, podding, that families have options to schools. And they also have ESAs and tax credit scholarships and other forms of private school choice. So that's going to be really exciting for us because there are just more options for families. So by the way, so I talked about our events. We're planning 15 events in Texas and in Arizona. So if you're a school partner, be sure to email me or Ayla. Julia's about to go on maternity leave, so don't email her. But we are absolutely excited. We're going to do 15 events throughout the year, and they're not all just going to be kind of focused from November to March. So really excited about those in-person events. And those are for those people who attend, they're just phenomenal. Like we've sort of cracked the nut on that, and happy to share more. We have an event on this Saturday, which is a pre-K kinder enrollment. Again, I was really skeptical. This tells you though the interest from parents. This event, we sort of pulled together at the last minute. It's in a very sparsely populated sort of part of town relative to other places. And we have over 300 families who've already registered. And I was very skeptical that we were going to get 100 families to register. So we're really excited. Again, there continues to be interest in the part of parents to understand their options and to connect directly with schools. If you're in Houston, we're having an open house on May 5th. So please come on by. We also moved. So that's other big news. We were supposed to move about a year ago. We didn't. I'm raising that because I think you should just all know, like, our team has been crushing it. We worked virtually. We came back. Some of you know we were robbed in the middle of the day while we were back in the office, and we are an all-female staff. So that was kind of difficult. It was hard to get people to feel safe coming in between COVID and being robbed. So we've moved, and we're in a really amazing space. And we would love to have folks come by and visit with us and talk to our staff on May 5th from 4 to 7. If you're in Houston, you can come by anytime. If you are not in Houston, This is a good excuse to come to town before it gets too hot. In the fall, we are having a luncheon at the River Oaks Country Club. It's being co-chaired by Jennifer Ducote and Margaret Hill, who are both on the Re-Enroll Texas Committee and have had children, actually, their high school kids volunteered at Families Empowered and are now college students. We are going to honor Claudia Contreras, who is a founding board member and just phenomenal. Her daughter was actually our first employee. And we're going to have a speaker, Darrell Bradford from 50 Can is going to be our speaker. And he's phenomenal and has really looked at, 50 Can's been working in the school choice space for a long time, and particularly understands the impact I think that COVID has had in this space. And yes, Darrell is awesome, Tracy. He is great. So come, Tracy, we're going to see you there. Ways to get involved. We'd love to have, we are always looking for volunteers. Obviously, we love donations. That helps us pay the bills. But we also have phenomenal in-kind giving partners that have done great things. Like we had, sounds silly, but Cane's Fried Chicken gave us an obscene stack of meals for families. And at those events, those 7,500 people, when they came, they got meals from Cane's, which is just incredible. We've worked with food banks. That's not quite in kind, but it is in kind. We've partnered up and provided food at our events. So, always looking for that. And then school partners. We have school partners and not-for-profit partners like the Girl Scouts and others who are just great. Church faith-based partners that have done phenomenal work and provided space for us. So if you're interested, we're here. We're connecting every day with parents, and we're really good at building coalitions. Deanna and Aaron are sitting here giving me looks and they're just the best. They're here. If you want more information, you can email them or me. Oh, but Fajita Pete's, yes, they are also awesome. Thank you, Deanna. They gave some great food options. So again, like these are small businesses that have just stepped up tremendously. And I think that's it. That's a lot to go through. That's a lot of information. And I think this is going to be on YouTube, not that any of you want to watch it again. But any questions you have, oh, hey, Marianne, how are you? Any questions that you have, would love to take in the chat. Any thoughts that you have would be great. And if not, we're 1 minute. We started at, I think, 12:02, right? And we are ending on time. I'm looking, let's see, any upcoming events in Austin. So Juliana, we have a pretty robust event schedule. We can email you the events in Austin. So we will absolutely have events in Austin next year for sure. What time is the luncheon on October 22nd? I think it's at 11. And we are incredibly disciplined. Those who attended our luncheon last year will know we start on time, we end on time. We don't go over. We know that, again, people give up their lunch. So Heather, we absolutely will email you the list. You can share information with us. I think Ayla's information is in the chat. Absolutely. Newcomers are people we specialize in. Obviously, we have lots of families who, yay, yes, happy to work with you, Elizabeth. We have lots and lots of families who are refugees, who are, and again, we serve families regardless of their immigration status. We don't ask for that. We are non-governmental, so we're an incredibly safe place for all families. And we work with diverse schools, which I think makes us really appealing to families. Partner schools in total for each Do you have an estimate for the number of partner schools in total and or each area that you use that use your resources? So we partner with literally hundreds of schools, Stephanie. I think we break that down by region, and it fluctuates per year. But I think, for example, how many did we have in Fort Worth? That was like 50 different schools we partnered with, and sometimes one school represents multiple campuses. So we tend to usually actively engage. I think with it ends up per region being somewhere between like 50 and probably 75. Some other places like Austin might be a little smaller. But yeah, there are networks, and that like a Fort Worth ISD or an HISD that have hundreds of schools. And then there are single site charters or a small Catholic school. Yeah, so we're constantly meeting new schools, which is really a cool part of what we do. But yeah, and we do work with districts. I think that's the other thing that people don't really know. We did a partnership with Austin ISD. We just are wrapping up one with the Sunnyside Unified School District in Tucson. And so we've also worked with TEA, with the state of Arizona. We did a little survey for the CDC, which was fascinating.
Tracy wants to know about Arizona for all over the state.
Oh, so Tracy, great, thank you. I just got that. So we are kind of doubling down on Tucson, but have families, because we did some work with the governor's office from across the state. So I think we're really interested in Phoenix, in addition to Tucson. So our plans will be to really execute hard this year in Tucson and then expand to Phoenix pretty quickly. There's just so much choice there, and there's so many options, and there's a lot of opportunity for families. Great. Yes, that's great. It is great. It's inspiring. It's if anyone's interested in looking at a state that is doing really innovative work, I would say Arizona is a place where they've used public dollars to do some really great stuff. I think we might have people on here from Florida who are interested in our work, and Florida is another state that's got some really, really innovative options and opportunities for families. There's my timer. And we're eager, to learn. I think we in Texas have a lot of potential to better serve families. Leanne, loved hearing about the incredible work. Thank you, Leanne. Leanne's great. She's a virtual school, former principal of one of the largest virtual schools in charter schools in the state of Texas. And she's been an awesome resource for sure, as schools have had to be hybrid. And so we're grateful for her. She's also on our Re-Enroll Texas committee. She's a former public school principal. So virtual high five to Leanne. I think we're going to wrap up. If there are any other questions, concerns, thoughts, I am available. Erin McFarland, Deanna Schaefer, we are all available. And we're grateful that you just gave up 30 minutes of your day to learn more about our mission and work. Thank you. You're free.